Welcome back to Liberty Bytes on the Think Liberty Network. I'm your host, William Gadsden. You can follow me personally on Twitter at William_Gadsden, or check out my Facebook page at William Gadsden Political Commentator. Check out Think Liberty on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever your favorite social media outlet is. Give us a follow and a like for updates on new episodes and more. So one thing that has been in the headlines a lot lately is censorship of conservative voices on social media. A lot of right-wing and libertarian personalities have been sounding the alarm on this for years now, talking about things like shadow banning and throttling and demonetizing and all the rest of it. And over the last year or so, it has proven itself to be true time and time again. From undercover stings by Project Veritas with big tech employees from Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, to outright examples of unfair censorship like the lifetime bans of Milo Yiannopoulos, Alex Jones, and Gavin McInnes, or members of the libertarian/right-wing drinking club, the Proud Boys, being completely purged from Twitter and Facebook, along with all affiliated groups and pages. We're seeing bold moves on the part of big tech across the board. Even outright libertarian or liberty movement-oriented pages are under attack at this point, and people are taking notice. Most recently, you had Joe Rogan interview Alex Jones, and subsequently interview independent journalist Tim Pool and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, along with Jack's babysitter. The topics of discussion? Censorship in big tech, specifically against anyone to the right of Mao Zedong. So that is the new buzz now. How do we handle this onslaught on diversity of opinion and thought being perpetrated by big tech? Should big tech be categorized? How should it be categorized? As publishers, as a media platform, as a utility? Should the government step in to regulate it? If they did, what shape would that regulation take? The most troubling part of all of this is not only the amount of voices calling for government to step in, but the steps that they are willing to take in order to get their way. Now, I'll admit, one of my guilty pleasures is scrolling through the Donald on Reddit. Seriously, it is an absolute goldmine of boomer Trump worshippers that insist he can do no wrong and is just playing 482nd D upside-down Stratego chess and is winning. Anyway, these guys were in an uproar about big tech, insisting that, well, they have to be they're a monopoly on speech. They must be broken up through antitrust laws. I don't know why that came out sounding like Obama. They must be regulated. So I'm sitting here with my mouth agape, wondering what the hell happened to the conservative movement. What happened to conservatives wanting limited government? Where's the Tea Party? So because these guys aren't getting their way on the big tech platforms, they want Big Daddy government to step in and fight their battles for them. I want to say in no uncertain terms that calling for government intervention in this market is no different than the Democrats calling for single-payer health care or regulating gun manufacturers or anything else on their short list that requires the government to bully industry. Here's the most important thing, though. The real crux of this conversation that I really want to drive home here, there are plenty of Democrats that would love to take these conservatives up on their offer as soon as the market provides a big tech outlet that isn't singing their praises. They would love nothing more than to shut down voices of dissent, especially when with a majority in the House right now. You had better believe that legislation that would regulate media is on their short list, right below single-payer health care and gun control. So let me tell you about their First Amendment busting holy grail, the Fairness Doctrine. Now, this is something I've touched on in episodes before, but I want to go more in-depth on it in this one. So the Fairness Doctrine was a policy implemented and supported by the Federal Communications Commission. You know, that group of totally unelected bureaucrats that regulates what can and can't be said and shown on the radio and television, starting in 1949, that required any outlet discussing or disclosing controversial information to give equal airtime to both sides of the discussion. In other words, if you have a 30-minute long radio program about right-wing politics, Guess what? You now have a 15-minute radio program about right-wing politics. And a leftist just got a 15-minute radio program about left-wing politics. Or you don't get a program at all. Because if you didn't meet the FCC's standards, then they would revoke your broadcasting license. That's right. The left figure out how to redistribute airtime. This rule went on and was enforced until about 1987. And starting in the early 90s, the left found a new reason to drool at the prospect of bringing it back. So the early 90s were a time of rebirth for political media and the birth of me. So all around, pretty great. Talk radio started and quickly grew over time. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I'm talking about the phenomenon that gave rise to Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Michael Savage, Mark Levin, etc. And while the left dominated Hollywood and most of the major news outlets, the right had talk radio, and the left hated it. They couldn't stand having one stronghold in media that they couldn't get any traction in. But the right flourished and reveled in it. The Fairness Doctrine was the perfect weapon for the left to gut talk radio, and they wanted it bad. Since 2005 alone, the left has tried to reinstate the Fairness Doctrine on at least a half dozen occasions, with some leftist politicians even insisting that it should apply to satellite and cable broadcasters. The authoritarian left has been after this as recently as the late aughts, and you'd best believe that they will jump at the chance to bring it back around again. So here's the thing, folks. We have well-intentioned but grossly misled right-wingers on one side crowing for government intervention into big tech, instead of working on creating and expanding existing outlets where their voices are heard and even celebrated. On the other side, we have the authoritarian left waiting in the shadows for their time to come again, waiting for the opportunity to take them up on that offer. But the Trumpians won't like the consequences of that. So what is the point here? The point is that anytime you call for government intervention to counter your political enemies, understand that you are creating that same opportunity for that same intervention to be used against you as well. While big tech and social media are the main concerns right now, it will be something else in another 5 years, and something else 5 years after that. And every time we give the government another toehold in regulating what or how we communicate and live our lives, they use that to expand their own control over us. Left or right, nobody should want that. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join me next week to become more liberty-centered with us. I'm William Gadsden with Think Liberty.